We all wonder, is a perfect murder even possible? A crime so clean, so flawlessly executed that the killer just disappears. Well, for 6 whole months, this case was exactly that, a doctor's perfect crime. But perfection, as it turns out, has a shelf life.
So, a perfect murder, it isn't just about not getting caught. It's about no one even knowing a murder happened in the first place. The killer's plan is so good, so airtight, that there isn't even a crime to investigate. It's the kind of thing you read about in thrillers, but in this story, the killer came terrifyingly close to making it real.
And for 6 long months, the plan actually worked. The death was officially ruled natural, the case was closed, the killer was walking free, and absolutely no one suspected a thing. It was, for all intents and purposes, a success. Until, suddenly, it wasn't.
So, what happened? How does a case that's totally closed suddenly become an active murder investigation half a year down the line? It all came down to a single piece of paper. One single routine report that arrived late, but ended up speaking volumes.
Okay, so let's just lay out the timeline. On April 24th, Dr. Kritika Reddy, a young, successful doctor, dies. The initial postmortem exam, inconclusive. They find nothing suspicious. So, for the next 6 months, everyone believes she died from her known health issues. The case is basically collecting dust. And then, bam, October 13th. This one lab report lands on a desk and blows the whole thing wide open. To really understand how this all fell apart, we've got to go back. We need to look at this seemingly perfect couple with this bright future ahead of them, whose wedding vows were apparently hiding a very dark and a very deadly secret.
So, this is the couple at the very center of our story. On one side, you've got Dr. Mahendra Reddy, a respected gastroenterologist surgeon. And on the other, his wife, Dr. Kritika Reddy, a dermatologist. We're talking about 2 highly educated, successful people, the very picture of a modern power couple in Bangalore.
And from the outside, their life looked perfect. They had this huge, grand wedding just about a year before she died. Kritika was literally on the verge of opening her own clinic. You look at their pre-wedding photos, and all you see is a happy, smiling couple, totally in love, ready to start their lives. Nobody could have guessed what was really going on.
Now here's where the plan gets really twisted. The foundation of this perfect murder was built on something very real, Dr. Kritika's genuine health struggles. Her own sickness would become the killer's secret weapon.
You see, Kritika wasn't in perfect health. She had these chronic stomach issues and high blood pressure. Her family knew about it. It was a known thing. And her husband, a gastroenterologist of all things, was the one person she trusted the most to help her manage it.
And this is how her final days played out. On April 21st, her stomach pain gets really bad, so her husband gives her an injection. Seems normal, right? The next day, the pain is back, so he gives her a second dose. It all looks like a doctor caring for his sick wife. Then, 2 days later, he calls her family in a total panic, saying Kritika is unresponsive. She's rushed to the hospital, and she's declared dead.
But, in that fog of grief and confusion, one person felt something was just off. One person's intuition started to pull at the threads this carefully woven story. And that person was Kritika's sister.
And here it is. This was the killer's first big mistake. Dr. Reddy was adamant. Absolutely no postmortem. He argued to her parents that, look, we all knew she had health problems, so why put her body through that? He was trying really hard to convince them it was just unnecessary.
But Kritika's sister, who, by the way, was also in the medical field, she just wasn't having it. She put her foot down and insisted. And that's when Dr. Reddy's behavior went from weird to deeply suspicious. During the actual procedure, he kept trying to get into the post-mortem room, over and over, to the point where the police had to physically tell him to stay out. His actions were so bizarre they were massive red flags to everyone there.
But here's the crazy part. Even with all that strange behavior, his plan seemed to work. The first post-mortem report came back inconclusive. It found nothing suspicious, nothing that contradicted his story that she died from her chronic illness. As far as anyone could tell, he had gotten away with it.
6 months of silence. 6 months where a killer walked free, probably thinking he'd pulled it off. And then, the very science that he thought he'd outsmarted finally caught up to him and forced a confession.
It all came down to the Viscera report. See, a normal autopsy looks for physical causes of death, right? But a viscera analysis is different. It's a deep chemical analysis of organ tissues. It's designed to find the things the naked eye can't see: poisons, toxins, drugs. And because that first autopsy was inconclusive, her samples were sent off to a lab for this routine test. On October 13th, the results were finally in.
And the difference between the two reports was just stark. The postmortem back in April, inconclusive. Totally consistent with her known health problems. But the viscera report from October, chillingly specific. The cause of death was an anesthesia overdose. It was definitive, scientific proof of chemical poisoning. Dr. Kritika didn't die from her illness. She was murdered. And with that single piece of paper, his entire story just crumbled. Armed with the viscera report, the police arrested Dr. Mahendra Reddy the very next day, and faced with undeniable, irrefutable science, he confessed to everything.
So here it was, his perfect plan laid bare. The motive? He was furious, absolutely furious, that his wife's family had supposedly hidden how sick she really was before they got married. His weapon? Anesthesia. As a surgeon, he had easy access, and more importantly, he knew it would be really hard to find in a regular autopsy. His method was so cunning. He gave her 2 separate doses to make it look like her condition was just getting worse and worse. And the cover-up was the final piece. Use her real illness and his status as a doctor to deflect any and all suspicion.
So when you look at the whole picture, what actually defeated this nearly perfect crime? Well, it wasn't one big dramatic thing. It was a powerful combination of something very human and something very scientific.
Think about it. His meticulous, carefully crafted plan was brought down by 2 things he absolutely could not control. First, a sister who just felt in her gut that something was deeply wrong and refused to let it go. And second, a standard, routine forensic test that he either underestimated or just hoped would never see the light of day.
There's this quote that just perfectly captures the absolute tragedy here. A doctor's profession is a noble one, but he turned trust and medicine itself into a weapon. He took everything his profession stands for, healing, knowledge, trust, and he twisted it to kill.
This case really leaves us with a haunting question, doesn't it? It's a stark reminder that sometimes the greatest dangers come from the very places and the very people where we feel the safest. So you have to ask yourself, when the person you trust most becomes the poison, what is the cure?